Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Wisteria Rose and I am the independent author of my debut novel, Mythomania, a new adult romantic suspense novel, as well as my upcoming book, Intro Laconic. I'm super excited to finally get to be able to say that I have a new book coming out, even though I only put Mytho out at the very beginning of the year back in January. I've been working on all kinds of projects for several years now, so I'm really excited to get the chance to release another one, especially since this year has been less than great for everyone. I would say 2020 has not been a particularly good year, but I've given myself a few happy moments with writing and finally launching into being an author, and so I do have a bit more information about Intro Laconic coming up towards the end of the video, so please stay tuned and continue to watch. But for now, today I'm going to be talking about my very first experience with beta readers and the whole beta reading process. So Intro Laconic, I decided it was going to be my next book, probably back in April or May, earlier this year, because the book had been pretty much written in entirety and just needed to be edited by me, gone through the beta process, and then professionally edited. But I had never done beta reading before. I didn't get the chance to do it with Mytho because really with that book I didn't have much of the same information that I have now available to me. I didn't really connect with other authors or readers or anything, so I was kind of batting solo for that one. I do still think Mytho turned out very well, you know, without the beta reading, though it definitely could have used an extra set of eyes or an extra 10 set of eyes. But I was thankfully able to have a month set out back in July for beta reading and for people to read the story, and I broke it up into 4 weeks, so 4 chunks, and each chunk ended up being about 75 pages of the manuscript, so it was kind of long, but I think it ended up working out really well. So I wanted to share with you guys kind of what I used, how I found my beta readers, and how the process went along for me. So when I decided I wanted to have beta readers, I started doing some research. I looked up other people's videos on YouTube, did some Googling, found some like good questions, and basically what I could tell is the easiest way to find beta readers is to do it through social media. Whether that be your Twitter, your Tumblr account, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you use most regularly, that's usually where people are most excited to do something like beta readers. Almost every single one of my beta readers came through Wattpad for me. Wattpad is basically where I got my start posting stories online, and I have been posting stories on there since 2017, I believe. Don't quote me on it, I'm not actually sure, but that's where I have my most active readers of stuff I have published, and also like fan fiction and stuff. So I got most of my beta readers from Wattpad, but I did get a few who were people I met on Tumblr. So that was also where I kind of pulled them in. I didn't get anyone from like mailing lists or anything, because my mailing list was basically only had one person in it at that time, and even now it's not particularly large. But Wattpad ended up working really well for me, so I just posted like a short little paragraph on all of my active stories. I was like, hey, I'm looking for beta readers for this new story. Here's a little bit of what it's about. If it's interesting to you, please fill out this Google form. So I use Google Forms to find beta readers, and pretty much anything I need input or I'm looking for people for, I use Google Forms, just because it's the easiest for me personally to make the document, to change it, and to send it out to people. And Google Forms usually they have a good reputation, I would say, of being easy to use and user-friendly and trustworthy. So I have used Google Forms for that. So basically I made my form. I will take some screenshots and put it over here. But I made my form. I said what the book was about. I gave the synopsis. No, I didn't. I said what the book was about, what the schedule I was looking to complete was about, how long the story was and everything, and some questions that I will show you here of just kind of general things to make sure that the person applying to be a beta reader would be a good beta. So like what type of stories they usually read, what tropes they like, what tropes they don't like, how old they are. Is really important, I feel, to get people both inside of your targeted age demographic and a few outside, just to kind of see what the range of opinions on the story is. I think my youngest beta reader was 14 and my oldest was in her 50s, so I did have a pretty big age range for that, and I was very thankful. It was really interesting to see the different perspectives, and then just making sure that they knew the information was confidential, that they couldn't share any screenshots or the document or anything with anyone else. That sort of basic business stuff. So I let that open. I left it open for a few weeks, and I ended up with 30 something applications. I was like, oh my god, I was expecting like 3 people to sign up. And my original number, I wanted to go for 15 beta readers. So I went through all the application. I basically threw out any application that looked suspicious, or if someone had applied. I had 2 people both apply like 3 times each. That was really weird. So I went ahead and threw their applications out just because that rubbed me the wrong way. And then I made sure if someone had disliked a trope that was very prevalent in my book, I made sure not to choose them. The goal is to choose people who you think legitimately would like your book. It's not, you know, you don't want to choose someone who sounds like they don't like reading that type of book at all, because that feedback wouldn't end up being helpful. You know, if they don't like reading romance whatsoever, then they're not going to have a good experience beta reading for you, and most likely their feedback is not going to be particularly helpful. So make sure you choose someone who would fit well, especially with the things they like to read and the things they don't like to read. I ended up reaching out to about 15 people. Most of them got back to me. A few of them I never heard from, so I went back to my application, chose a few more, and reached out. And I ended up in the beginning with 10, was it 10 or 11? 10, I think, yeah, 10 full people who had agreed to be beta readers. They were responsive, and I sent out the chapters to them. And then after sending out the chapters, the day I would email them chapters, I also made sure to include the other Google form for that particular week for that section and ask them questions. My Google form questionnaires were a little long. I think I had like 15 to 18 questions each. Some of them were really basic, like, you know, again, what's your name, stuff like that. But some of them were a little more in-depth, like, what was your, were there any characters that you felt were inconsistent? Were there any times where you got bored during this section? You know, etc., etc. I got the majority of my questions and altered them slightly from this webpage I will link below. It was really helpful. I did add a few more that were more specific to my genre and my book in particular, but for the most part, I basically used those questions and built on whatever I felt was necessary. So I made sure to send all of my betas the document in the same format, just to make it easier for me to keep up with. So it was just a PDF format that I wanted to send out to them, and then they would fill out the form. A few betas went above and beyond and actually went through and wrote like notes on the PDF and emailed them back to me. That was really super helpful for like more specific nitpicky things, and I went through those edits. But using several different formats can get really confusing. You have to make sure that you have everyone's response, that they gave their feedback back on time, so your schedule doesn't get all jacked up. I had a very strict schedule for my beta reading, so I could only basically have 1 day leeway. So if something happened and someone needed to turn in the form like a day late, that was fine. But if it needed to be more than 1 day, it would screw everything out, because I needed basically everyone to be on the same page, reading the same parts of the story at the same time, so I could edit properly. So I would send the betas their chunk, they have the week, and when I got all their information back on Sunday night, I would spend the next week going through their forms and their answers, writing down notes on what I thought was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, I should change that, and editing it. And I did that repeatedly until the whole book was over, and the feedback tended to be really helpful for the most part. There was some that I felt was, I'm not gonna say, it wasn't mean or anything, but their feedback almost made it seem as if they were wanting to read kind of a story that had a different vibe than what I wanted Laconic to be, which is fine because this person still did give some helpful feedback a few times. So feedback is another thing I wanted to talk about. You do not have to take every suggestion your beta gives you and change it. You don't. Because sometimes a beta may not just connect with something, or sometimes maybe you have a plot or a theme or something that you want to continue throughout the rest of the book or the rest of the series or something. Or sometimes something will be clarified later on in the book, so you do not have to take, or sometimes you just don't like their suggestion and you don't think it'll be the best for your book. So you don't have to take every piece of advice and every change someone suggests and incorporate it. Sometimes you'll just be like, I don't think I want to change this, or I like how this sounds anyway. But if you aren't open to constructive criticism and you really don't want to take the feedback and make some of the changes and, you know, see what the readers are telling you, then there's no point in you really doing a beta reading process, because the whole point is to get feedback and change stuff so your book can be the best it possibly can be. So definitely take everything with a grain of salt. Consider it from a reader's point of view, since you are, you're probably watching this, you're a writer probably. Since you are someone who is writing, things make more sense in your head, because, you know, you have the whole plot hopefully thought out in your brain, and you know how you want things to connect and stuff, and sometimes you forget to actually make those connections clear on paper in the story, and betas are much more likely to pick up on that. They picked up on like mistakes, grammar, continuity errors, stuff like that. Also, just general feedback. Sometimes a beta suggested that they didn't like a character's stage name, and when she told me why, I instantly had to change the stage name because I could not stop thinking of it like that. It was something that didn't occur to me in my brain, but when she pointed it out, I was like, oh yeah, I can definitely see how other people may see it like that. So I ended up changing a few character stage names. I made sure, you know, that stuff was just more coherent and that characters were stable and generally likable. Especially in this first book, Laconic is much more of a fluffy piece than the rest of the series will be. I'm not going to tell you the rest of the book's names, but they do reflect how things change for the main couple, Venus and Taein. So yeah, basically that was my experience with beta reading. I would definitely do it again. I'm forever grateful to my betas. I have named every single one of them in my acknowledgments for this book, because it means the absolute world to me that they would take a significant portion out of their time for a whole month to read my first draft and to give me their edits and their feedback and to really, really help me out. So I am forever grateful, betas. If you are watching this, I love you dearly. Thank you so much. If I ever need other beta readers and you would love to beta read again, I will absolutely love to have you. You have been a blast. And yeah, so that was basically my first experience. I definitely recommend it, especially for fiction and especially for books that you're planning on having more than one of. Like, this is going to be a trilogy. It's a whole trilogy. And before I wrap this video up, I have a few things I wanted to mention. I am currently looking for ARC readers and street team members for Intro Laconic. So down below I will leave the respective forums for both of those. ARCs are more for if you just want to read the book early and leave a honest review on release day or release week, and street team is more for if you'd like to help me promote the book, have fun challenges, and get the chance to win a prize every week of the active promotion timeline, which will be happening at the end of this month through the end of September, as my book will come out September 22nd. So pre-order and the cover reveal will come out on the 11th of this month, and I will make a video, just a really short bonus video about that, showing you the cover, talking about my experience with a cover designer and how I found her. And I have all kinds of super fun stuff planned for this book release. I'm so excited. So if you haven't already, please follow me on my socials. That's where I post most of my information. Also sign up for my mailing list for exclusive offers and early, information and stuff. And yeah, so if you're at all interested in being an ARC reader or a part of my street team, please fill out the form. I would love to have you and I would love to work with you. So basically that's all I have today for you guys. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll be sure to get back to you. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.